think you're still muted, Jacob.
Yes, I am. All right. Take two. Jordyn, just how excited are you to start off your second season? And with everything going on, what are some of the biggest differences that your team is facing, and how have you guys dealt with those challenges through the first couple practices?
Yeah, I'm incredibly excited. I feel like, especially since our season was cut short last year, our team and our coaching staff kind of has this fire underneath that is just fueling us. And we're excited to get back out on the competition floor and kind of, get back to that unfinished business that we feel like we had a little bit at the end of last season. A lot of things look a little bit different for us. We obviously have just so many protocols and things that we're doing to make sure that, especially me and our entire medical staff, really trying to put the health and well-being of our athletes first. And then everything else second. I feel like that's the focus we need to continue having through the rest of the season. And so things look a little bit different. We're traveling very specifically. We're not going on any commercial flights. We're making sure we keep everybody very socially distant as much as we can. Really kind of creating this bubble around our team, as I'm sure a lot of the fall sports had to do as well. But keeping that bubble really tight because we want to, and we've talked to the team about this, we want to look back at the end of the season and know that we have no regrets in terms of, what protocols we followed and how we protected our team. So things look a little bit different with masks and distancing, and we can't have our team all kind of close together cheering on the sidelines anymore. But the great thing about gymnastics is it's not a contact sport. We can be very distant in our arena, in our practice facility. So that has helped us a lot, but we're still very aware of just trying to do everything as safely as we possibly can.
Tom, if you want to go ahead. You're still on mute, Tom. Okay, we'll go ahead with Brett.
Hey, sorry, just a disconnected voice here. Lost my video.
Okay.
Jordyn, improvements on the team this year. Where do you guys expect to be better? What's the health of the team looking like?
Good question. Yes, I think we are going to be better than we were last year. I felt like last year we made a lot of really good strides in terms of culture, in terms of quality of gymnastics, in terms of sticking, and we've made even more improvements, I feel like, this year, even despite having a little bit different of summer and fall training because of all the COVID impacts. So our team has really dialed in on some of the small details. We've upgraded a few skills here and there, but because we didn't have a ton of summer training, a lot of their club gyms were shut down over the summer. So we didn't have quite as many new skills as we had hoped, and more difficult skills, but those that are doing the same routines as last year have found ways to improve and get their score about a half-tenth better. That's kind of been our motto, especially the last couple of weeks, is how can every single person on the team get a half-tenth better this week? Because when everyone gets a half-tenth better, imagine, how much better the team score is going to be. So I definitely see a lot of improvements in terms of the quality of gymnastics. We obviously graduated quite a few routines, especially on bars. So we've got kind of a younger bar team, and we're still trying to figure out who's going to be kind of our staples in that bar lineup. We may see a few freshmen in there. So that's kind of still what we're sorting through. I definitely think we're going to see a lot of improvements on vault specifically. That was more of our struggle event last year. We're healthier on that event. We've got some people back. We've got a great freshman on vault. So I'm really excited to see, our team score improve because of that event specifically. And then, beam and floor, I believe will be just as solid and consistent as last year, if not a little bit better. So I'm excited. I'm excited to see it all kind of come together. We did our last team inter squad on Friday in Barnhill Arena on all of the equipment in there, and it was just, everybody just got so excited, and we did really well. So I'm excited to see how they perform at an away meet this weekend, and to see what improvements happen in an actual competition setting.
Sounds good. And I just have a couple more. Who's emerging as team leaders for you? And then what do you think about opening LSU like that?
Yeah, that's a little bit interesting. It was a little out of my control. We shifted to the conference only schedule. We've got 8 SEC teams, which means 7 opponents. So we added an 8th meet just to make sure we had an even amount of home and away competition. So everybody has to see at least one opponent twice. And that, for us, that's LSU. It just so happened to be back-to-back weeks. It just kind of worked out that way. But I'm excited. I think it's a great way to start our season. I mean, we saw something similar last year. We started out with Oklahoma, Florida, and Denver. And so this year we're going LSU, Florida. And I'm excited. I probably would prefer it that way. I think starting out against some tough teams is what makes our team stronger and pushes us to be better. So I'm excited to see LSU. And in terms of team leaders, we're seeing a lot of people emerge this year. I think an obvious one is Sarah Schaefer. She's a 5th year senior for us, and is really figuring out how to utilize her leadership role, use her voice a little bit more. And, it is a different challenge for our team leaders with all the COVID impacts, but I think it's challenging them in a different way, which is going to make them better people in the long run. So I'm really excited about that. So definitely Sarah Schaefer. For sure, Sophia Carter, who's also a senior for us. She is definitely that lead by example team leader, and she also is figuring out how to kind of speak up more this year. And then we've also got a transfer from Michigan who's a 5th year grad student, and she has come in and very comfortably stepped into a leadership role. So between those 3 seniors and then, a few other upperclassmen who, are very natural leaders, we've got some strong leadership this year. I'm excited to see how that kind of carries us through the season.
Thank you.
Brett, do you want to go ahead?
I will. Jordyn, you talked about starting off with LSU. How you kind of balance some of the freshmen or people that didn't compete as much last year that you want to see them and versus kind of throwing them into the fire. I guess there's no other choice if you want to kind of get them off and rolling this year, but it would seem to be kind of quite a challenging beginning to off a strange off season.
Yeah, well, I think the interesting thing about gymnastics is that we don't really focus a ton on our opponent because, really we walk into any arena, it could be any color, any team, and we just have to do our job. And we're not playing defense, we're not playing offense. So we just show up, and we've talked a lot to our team about visualizing what it's going to look like to go to an arena like LSU, where you're in a sea of purple and it looks different than Barnhill Arena. And we're really pushing them to visualize that and mentally prepare for what that's going to feel like and look like, because we do have a lot of freshmen who are going to be stepping into lineups. So we've talked to them a lot about visualizing and a lot about, just preparing the best you can physically and mentally, so that no matter where you are, what the equipment feels like or looks like, you do your normal routine. And that's the interesting thing about gymnastics is that, we don't even really talk about winning the meet a whole lot. We just talk about showing up and performing at our very best every time we get the opportunity. And if we can do that, then I think that we will see more wins this season. But we don't really talk about winning with our team. We talk about show up and be the best version of yourself and perform at your highest and best. And that's kind of our philosophy. And hopefully that will help some of our freshmen, relax a little bit when they show up to an LSU arena.
And from a health standpoint, where are you? Obviously, there's always some bumps and bruises. Do you feel good about it?
I do feel good about it. We've got, one athlete who tweaked her foot a couple weeks ago, Kiara Johnfania, who we saw in pretty much the all around every meet last year. So she'll be out for this first meet and potentially back on 1 or 2 events for our second meet. So we're having to make some lineup adjustments around that. But that's another thing that we talked about all preseason with COVID and not knowing anybody could go down at any time. Everybody has to be ready to step in more than any other year. So we've stressed our depth to our team and making sure that they're ready when the team needs them. So because we have done that, our lineups are still going to be great. They're still going to be high scoring. So we're excited that people were able to step in for Kiara's lineup spots. And hopefully next week we'll see her at least back on bars, if not bars and beam.
Jordyn, do you have any questions?
You just one. Hey, Jordyn, what did you learn about yourself in year 1? Maybe something that surprised you or a challenge, and anything that's maybe changing in style or philosophy in year 2?
Yeah. I learned a ton. I feel like I learned something every day because each and every day, being a head coach is a challenge, and I love that about this job. I love the fact that I get to potentially impact the lives of these 16 student athletes. And then, this year having this COVID challenge on top of everything, it's every decision you make as a head coach is a tough decision, and we make 1,000 decisions a day. But now when you add this COVID layer on top of every decision, it's challenging. And the one thing that I'm glad is already part of my philosophy and my foundation as a coach, in that I put the health and well-being of my student athletes first and foremost with every decision. That has really kind of grown tenfold with COVID, because we don't know a lot about this virus, and we're still learning, and we're trying to do the very best we can to have a successful season. But that is at the forefront of my mind, and I'm glad that was already a part of my foundation going into this year as a leader of this team, because at the end of the day, I want to make sure I'm protecting them, making sure they're healthy and safe, above winning meets, above competing. So that's my focus, and that's kind of been COVID has been the major challenge this year with every decision. But as long as I keep going back to making sure that they're healthy and safe, and I'm doing everything I can to protect them, I think it's going to be a great year.
Alrighty, Jason, I know that you said Jordyn took your question, but do you have any things for Jordyn?
Yeah, I guess just when you look at the overall schedule, the SEC only schedule, how difficult does that make what you guys want to do this season, or does it change your expectations at all for what you want to do in the regular season?
It doesn't change my expectations. I actually, it doesn't look much different than our regular schedule anyway, with the exception of we usually have 2 or 3 non-conference competitions. And last year, those non-conference meets were Denver, Oklahoma, and Penn State. So even the non-conference opponents that we have are usually tough. And so I don't have any different expectations now that we're conference only. I think the schedule is going to be really good for us. If there are any interruptions or we have to reschedule meets, we have these bye weeks kind of built into our schedule, which I think will really help. And, kind of going back to what I said earlier about how gymnastics just is a little bit different. Really what matters most is what we're scoring, and what our national qualifying score is. So if we continue just getting better each week and scoring a little bit higher each week, then I think we'll see what we want to see come the postseason. And yes, winning is fun, but for gymnastics, it's more about our score and how we can score the highest as a team. And so that's where my focus is, not necessarily on any of our opponents. And so that's what we're going to be pushing for this season, is just improving each week as a team, no matter what arena we're in, no matter who we're competing against. Do
you have benchmarks you kind of want to set as you go along, or is it we'll see where we are and then kind of build off of that as we move on?
Our team has set goals for sure. In particular, they want to start off the season really strong. They want to score a mid 196 that first meet. They have set that very specific goal, and they want to build off of that. And so our goal is to get 2 really good away scores and 2 really good home scores to kind of combine for that national qualifying score. And they have many other goals in terms of where they want to finish for the season. And I think it'll be our job to keep improving each week and getting more confidence each week in order to reach those goals.
Alrighty, and Tom, you had another question?
I do. Hey, Jordyn, who do you expect? Who can we expect on the all around for this first meet?
Mm-hmm. You can expect Kennedy Hambrick in the all around for sure. And this meet, actually, I'm really excited. Sarah Schaefer will probably be competing in the all around if all goes as planned, which is awesome. I think she's one athlete who has gotten better and better with her age, and now that she's a 5th year, she's never looked better, which is a little bit rare and just very exciting, and says a lot about the type of athlete that she is. So definitely Kennedy and Sarah you'll see in the all around, and a few other athletes competing 3 events, which is also exciting.
Outstanding. Thanks.
Alrighty, Jordyn. I think that's it. If nobody else has any more questions, we're all good.
Yep. Good luck this weekend.